Hello and welcome to another episode of the Power On Retro Gaming Podcast. My name is Scott and I'm joined by James, my co-host. Say hello, James.
How's it going, Scott?
Going very well indeed. So, we are back for episode, I believe it's 13.
That is correct, yes.
That's correct, good. And today we're just going to do a little bit of a different sort of episode. Today we're going to pick two games, a game each, and we're going to talk about it in some detail. I'm sure yours will be more detailed than mine, but we're going to discuss a game each. We don't know which game we're discussing that the other person's discussing, so
hopefully it's not the same.
Hopefully it's not the same, but I like those odds. But yeah, so we're going to pick a game each. We've written down some notes. This is, well, in my case, it's a game I've played but haven't completed, and I don't know about you, but I'm sure you'll tell us later on. Yep. I'll be going first, and then at the conclusion of my discussion of the game, or more so of a review, I guess, you'll ask me some questions about it. You may have heard of it, played it. We're not really sure. So it's a bit of a different layout this episode, but we're just going to have some fun with it and see if maybe this is something we can incorporate into future episodes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll get the ball rolling. Let me just sit up before I fall down the side of this couch. So the game I am going to speak about is a game I got on release on the 3DS, although it came out on the Nintendo DS in 2010, and then November 1st, 2011, it came out on the 3DS. It was released on the DS first, but then on the 3DS... Sorry, it was released on the 3DS and the Nintendo DS because at the time it was released... the DS was quite new, and they probably thought, well, we better put it... Sorry, the 3DS was quite new, so they probably figured we'd put it on both because, obviously we'd be isolating the people that don't have a 3DS yet. So that game is Harvest Moon, The Tale of Two Towns. Okay. Have you played it, or have you heard about it?
I have heard about it, yes. I have heard about it, never played it.
What do you know about it?
What do I know about it? Well, it's a farming simulator game. My wife's a big fan of the series. She used to have the one on the PS1 and the GBA. I believe I bought it for a couple of years ago as well.
Yep.
But we haven't played, or she hasn't played that one. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, well, so this was one of the first games I got on the 3DS back when an EB Games store was up in Blackburn North, which it's no longer there, but I figured I'd give it a go because I was chasing the one on the Super Nintendo, which I couldn't find at a reasonable price, so I decided to go with this one.
Yep.
Sorry, someone's just blowing up my phone. Anyway, so it was a game I picked up on 3DS. I just got the 3DS. I think I was with you when I got the 3DS, and it was a few days after that, so if you recall... We were together when I got my 3DS. It would have been a couple of days later that I went and picked that up.
Yep.
I've just noticed. Sorry, I gave you the wrong information. It came out in North America in 2011 on the 3DS. In Australia, it was 2012 in July 5th. So, just some background information on the game, published by Marvelous Interactive in Japan, Natsume in North America, and Rising Star in Europe, which means very little to me.
Yep.
But as you said, yes, it is a farm simulator. A little bit different to the other Harvest Moves. So it's the dancing game of the series. No, Harvest Moon game is a little bit different because it has basically what the title suggests, two towns. And the background of that is built into the story where the two towns have a disagreement many, many years ago about who cooks the better meals. I know it's a bit cheesy, but which results in the tunnel that they take to access each other's towns being shut off by the fairy goddess. So you can, at the very start of the game, you arrive and the mayors of the two towns ask you to pick which town you want to go live in. And ultimately what you want to do, if you go live in one town, it's focused more about raising livestock. So, looking after horses, cows, sheep, all that sort of stuff. And the other one is more growing crops, keeping bees, all that sort of stuff. Yep. So I chose to go to Konohana, which is the animal side. So
Okay.
you look after pigs, you look after cows. Each day you have to milk them and stuff, and you can sell the milk ultimately to buy. You can actually plant crops and stuff as well. So it's not like you're isolating yourself, and you can jump between both towns at any time. So it's not like once you've made a decision, it's set in stone. So a little bit about the game, yeah. So you sort of travel around. You can pick a girl or a boy, and you just continue to start doing that. It has a really good request system where
Yep.
there's a message board in the town where you can do different things like collect 3 fish or collect 4 rocks and give it to someone, and they'll give you, say, a potato or something. But basically, in terms of what your outcome is for the game, apart from just doing mindless tasks like farming and raising livestock, you
Mhm.
basically each week of the game, the in-game calendar, there's a cooking festival, and you have to present a meal to the cooking festival that on behalf of your town. And if you win, you get a prize, but you also there's a little bar with love hearts which goes up as you win.
Okay.
And your goal is to get that all the way full, which means that the towns will like each other again. And
Okay.
ultimately the path will be opened up. So it's very hard to win the cooking festival. I've only ever won it one time. The thing I find hard about the game is learning and finding the recipes to make interesting meals. Because if
Mhm.
you accidentally cook with the wrong ingredients, it presents a bad meal, so it's just useless.
Okay.
But also, if you have a 5-star meal and you go to the festival and someone in your town is their computer operated player and they give a bad meal, you'll have no chance of winning. So it's really rolling the dice on those.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, you like each day, you'll collect the milk and the eggs and you'll take them into town, sell them. You get money to buy things like different crops, seeds, all sorts of things. There's a few problems with the games, sort of the way it's set out, because you need to sort of go to stores to stock up on materials and fertilizer and stuff like that. But a lot of the times the stores are closed, and especially during the festivals, they're closed. So you can't say the festival's built around the theme of potatoes. You can't go and
Mhm.
buy potatoes, or
Okay.
so it sort of screws you over a bit. And the stores are closed when it's raining. The weather's different most days. They're closed on the weekend. So you could get up leading up to the festival. You might not be able to get anything to present a good meal and
Oh
ultimately
no.
lose. But look,
But
every time you go to the festival, the little heart gauge I mentioned will move a tiny bit. So it's like you're still getting a tiny bit of progression through the game, even if you do lose. Um,
okay. So
yeah. So
it makes it quite difficult to progress in a way, but you got to be. So the weather plays a big factor in the game.
yeah, the weather, and also it's got a few mechanical issues, but like I'm probably 45 hours into it, and I'm probably just over a quarter in filling the gauge between the two towns.
Oh wow.
So there's a lot of time you can put into it, and that's not to mention there's you can boost your skill level in terms of fishing and collecting bugs, and as you're doing all that stuff, you go up skill levels, and there's heaps of skill levels. You have to learn different recipes. You have to raise livestock, make sure they're okay, treat your plants, do all this while the time is ticking for the day. You've got to bring your cows and stuff in at night if it's raining and whatnot, and all those different things to consider. But then there's a whole other aspect of the game, which is marriaging. So you sort of have to court women or men, depending on who you are, and give them presents and different types of food and stuff to make them like you, and that fills up its own separate gauge.
Yep.
Um, so you can build relationships with basically everyone in the game. So, I think I read somewhere there was over 5,000 possibilities of 5,000 friendship points, sorry, and different marriage candidates that you can possibly go for. So there's all that as well. So if you're sitting down to sort of play this game and speed through it, you
Yep.
you just can't. You just can't. But funny thing about it is all the shops are closed when it's raining, except for the outdoor flower shop that remains open at all times. So yeah. Look, overall, compared to other Harvest Moon games, it's probably one of the least rated ones. Metacritic gave it 63 out of 100, and that was on the
Okay.
DS and the 3DS. Real
Yep.
only difference is the 3D graphics, and there's a few cutscenes in the 3DS version.
Mhm.
Um, I just played the 3DS version. I don't know anything about the DS version. Other than those two things, I'm sure they're very similar. But I really like it because it's probably the first Harvest Moon game that I've played.
Yep.
And I haven't really even played that much of it. I know that sounds funny, but like I'm not really that far into it, and I don't really play it well. Whereas I sort of focus on just the animals, whereas I should be growing crops and trying to get, recipes for the cooking festival and getting, a better fishing rod to catch better fish and doing all sorts of things. But I find that for me, it's like I just want to focus on sort of one thing.
Yep. And that's why we're not getting far enough in the cooking festival.
That's right. I should have had a look earlier to see. But since I got it in 2011, I probably play it once a year. I'll play it for a couple of weeks and get a little bit further. So, maybe one day I'll finally knock it over, but who knows? But yeah, look, it's in that Story of Seasons sort of family of games. You got games like Rune Factory, Innocent Life, Hometown Story. They're all sort of made by the same sort of guys and based around the same things. Yeah, so the first Harvest Moon game on the SNES was like 1996, so it's a very long-running series and obviously has a big following, but in terms of, other games in the series, I've probably got most of them along the way in terms like collecting-wise, but haven't really played all of them because I'm sort of trying to beat this one first, but because it is such a big game, it is going to take a while. I'm sure if you were really good at it, you would have beaten it by now, but I'm definitely not good at it. And that's why I can't really tell you what happens at the end because I haven't completed it or got close to beating it. I'm guessing that at the end when you fill the gauge, the towns go back to liking each other and all ends well and the tunnel opens back up and but
that's the kind of feeling you'd get from the plot of the story.
Yeah. It is different to the Harvest Moon games. I've watched some reviews prior to doing this just to get some more information, and they were saying they introduced a lot more to do with the animals, which were other animals that weren't in the game, but also the way you actually farm is different in this game. So that was pretty cool. And it is just a single-player game, so there's no online or anything. And that's about it for that. I think there might actually be some Street Pass capabilities for the 3DS, but I never really looked into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's my game of the day for you, my man. So yeah.
Well, there you go. It was quite detailed.
Yeah. Well, if you want to fire me off some questions or if there's anything you want to know, yeah.
So you're saying it came out in 2012 and you got it on the 3DS and you play it once a year. What type of animals would you say are on your farm that you look after that you're so keen on?
Well, obviously you start with chicks and they turn into chickens. I've got alpacas, horses, cows, pigs, and bees. And I've also got a bulldog and a Labrador sort of thing. And I might actually, I've got a cat as well. So, you have to make sure you've got dog food and stuff because a little sort of symbol will come up above. It's like a Tamagotchi. It'll come up above their head that they need a brush or they need a milk or they need food, whatever it might be. So if you don't have that stuff, obviously they're going to get sick and die. It is easy just to go and buy another one, but obviously you sort of the aim of the game is to look after them. So yeah.
Yeah. And what type of food do you have to do for this cooking competition?
Well, you can get seeds for anything, and you obviously can catch a fish and make some sort of fish dish, grilled fish. But you'll make butter and you'll make cream and you'll make milk and stuff like that, and buy different sorts of pots from town. When maybe if you fulfill a request, you can get, say, a different type of frying pan, which helps you to cook things differently, which results in better meals. But then if you do cook a meal on, say, a Tuesday and the festival's on Thursday, by that time the meal's gone bad.
Yep.
So it'll be an instant fail.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to think, but like I was growing onions, and stuff like that. So you need to have quite a big area set aside to sort of grow different things.
Yep.
Um, but also it can be hard to come across certain seeds if you are trying to work on something. As I mentioned, if the festival's, based around a certain something, let's just say it's based around fruit and you don't have any fruit, then you're sort of screwed.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Um, and that's it. As I said, I sort of more focused around the animals, so I didn't really grow a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But it can, I guess it's one of those games, if you don't know how to play it properly, it can be a bit difficult and overwhelming because there's a lot in it. And,
Yep.
like, I know in other series of games you can actually get married and move into the house and stuff, but I don't really know if I'm even near that stage. Or, like, I've given gifts to people, but I'm sure you have to do it many, many times to sort of get a relationship going with people. But, yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So that's Harvest Moon, huh?
Yeah, Harvest Moon, Tale of Two Towns. Look, I really like it, so I'll give it, 7.5 out of 10, and
Yep.
I hope to sort of beat it. And I guess when we talk about these different games on the show and that I'm still playing, it gives me motivation to go back and sort of complete them.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Um, and Natsume games, I think, have always been really good. I know they did a Ninja Turtles game on the Game Boy Advance, which was pretty good, and also they did the Metabots games, which were really, really good RPGs. So,
Okay.
and it plays really well. Like, like you don't have to hold down L to run. You just push it once and you automatically run and stuff like that. So they've taken care to make sure it's easier and quicker to do things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my game, my man. So let me hear yours and better be good. No, just kidding.
I hope it's in the same sort of detail as what you did with Harvest Moon there. Um,
Yeah.
alright, so my game is Super Metroid, and that was a game on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Have you played it? I'm sure you know of it. You've heard of it.
I actually have it in my hand right now. If you can
Oh,
hear this.
there you go.
There you go. That's me taking the
Convenient.
card. Here's me blowing it. Yep.
See, this wasn't planned. This is just convenience.
That's just the one I'm actually playing at the moment. So there you go. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So that's actually funny. All right. So Super Metroid is it's an action adventure game developed by Nintendo R&D 1 for the Super Nintendo back in 1994.
Yep.
It's the third installment of the series, and the first one being Metroid on the NES, and this one follows the events of the second one, which was called Samus Returns, which came out on the Game Boy, I believe in maybe 91.
Yep.
I might be incorrect on that one, but I believe it was 91.
Okay.
All right. So you control pretty much Samus Aran, which is a bounty hunter, and you travel to the planet Zeebs to return an infant Metroid stolen by Ridley, who is a space pirate. I don't know if to everyone listening, if you played the new Smash Brothers, he's the dragging looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Alright, so the game focuses on exploration, with the player searching for power-ups and abilities, such as like the grappling beams, morph ball, spring ball, speed booster, high jump boots, health boosts, reserve tanks, which are actually quite important,
Yep.
charge beams for your gun, all these different bits for your suit, and different missiles. So pretty much there's certain doors that can open with just your normal shot, and then you're going to need your missile and then your super missiles, which the super missiles, I believe, were the green doors, and the purplish looking doors being just your normal missiles. And they take about 5 shots just to open one door from memory.
Okay.
it was a couple of years ago when I beat this for the first time on the Super Nintendo. I played it a fair few times more on ROMs, while probably in the mid 2000s, but I actually got the cart and I actually beat it a couple of years ago, so I was pretty happy with that. It's such a good game. Um, the music in it is fantastic.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm sure you've been playing it. You know how good the music is. It's all about atmosphere in the game. It's kind of like it was the movie Aliens was such like a popular movie that Ridley, the space pirate, is actually named after Ridley Scott.
Ah, there you go, the director from that series.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So you had the game as a kid.
I did have the game. No, I didn't have the game as a kid. It was actually given to me by one of my mates. We called him Snail Master, as you
Yes.
remember.
Shout out
Yeah,
to Jimbo. Yep, I remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, he ended up giving it to me. So, and then that was after I'd played it on the ROM, so I'd got it from him, and that's the game I still own today, and the game that I beat recently, which was really good. It was really nice of him to giving it to me.
But I hope he doesn't listen to this and then ask for it back, eh?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you are listening, Corey, I'm hanging on to that copy of Killer Instinct. Anyway, so yeah, because I recall it being on the floor in your room many moons ago. Yeah, because my versions I got from Japan when we went there together recently.
And you got it complete in the box, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And the box art in the Japanese version looks really good as well, and plus it plays in complete English as well.
Yeah, and also I've been playing it on the Superboy, which is pretty cool because it's like, as you said, it's very it's a rainy day game. I think is the best description of it. How old were you when you first played it?
Oh, it would have been just before. When did Metroid Prime come out? So early 2000s. I'd say around then, probably like 12 or something like that.
All right, so you're playing. Let me take you back. You're playing it around that time when you're about 12, and obviously Super Nintendo is known for its vibrant, colourful, family games. Then you pop this in, and it's basically, someone probably call it a survival horror type game.
Yep.
What kind of feeling did it give you, sort of playing something like this?
To be honest, the feeling it got, it was like kind of like eerie because of that music in the background. And then you're just pretty much searching for a while. You're not sure what's going on, and then it all just happens. Then like things are flying at you. Yeah. You're searching through the doors. It just becomes more intense. But that music, I got to look up who composed it, but he did such a magical job on it.
Yeah, and this is another game in a series of games that's still going, years and years later. So, two completely different series. I don't know if anyone wants to find out if anyone has worked on the other one in the staff of the two games, but we've seen Samus and now Ridley in Super Smash Bros. We've also seen, Zero Suit Samus, Dark Samus.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Harvest Moon characters in Super Smash Bros.
No, we haven't.
That's setting the benchmark for if it's a good game or not.
Yep.
When are we going to see the owner of the flower shop in Super Smash Bros? No, but you're right though. Like I remember, obviously because I only got it recently. When I first played it, I was like, wow, it's the music's just so. It's like a stale sort of tone of music, and you're like, this is really cool. Like just feels cool as you're playing through it. And I know what you were sort of referring to just a moment ago when you said like the first part you're just wandering through corridors, and then I think you have a fight with Ridley or something, and then that activates something that sets off all these alarms and stuff, and it's just go time.
Yeah.
I might be really off, but yeah, that's what I recall.
So with the Ridley thing, I believe that's at the start of the game, and that's pretty much a flashback to, I believe, the previous game. So
Yeah.
it's like a continuation. So you escape on the ship, and
Yeah.
then you end up back on this planet, Zebes, which was on the first one.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I've got it right there. But yeah, it's all go time, and then it's just the exploration, and then with the music, it just all works really well. So in the Super Metroid, there are 4 space pirates that you need to defeat in the game. So when you're exploring, I believe it's the first stage from memory, might be Ceres. It's called the Space Colony or Criteria. There's like, you'll stumble upon a statue, and there's like diamonds, and they're just like gleaming, and then they're the eyes of the 4 space pirates. So each time you beat a space pirate, one of their statues will glow gold.
Yep.
So once you've defeated them all, that whole thing turns gold, and then it sinks to the ground, and then underground you tend to go fight, believe it's Mother Brain.
Oh.
But yeah, so the four space pirates from memory, I believe it was Kraid, we had Fantoon, Dragon, and the big guy being Ridley. And there was a bunch of mini bosses throughout the game, so you're not just fighting the 4 main guys. There's a bunch of mini bosses. So when you beat Kraid, I believe before that there's a mini Kraid, and you think you've beaten him, and then here comes this bigger guy, and you're like, oh crap.
That's what's been dealing with that a bit at the moment in Persona 5. Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So while you've been talking, because I just wanted to know who did compose that music, and it's the name of the composer is Kenji Yamamoto, and he was able to do all that music and put it into the 6 megabytes of space on the Super Nintendo. But
see, that's amazing.
It is just interesting that I looked this up, because a few of the games we've actually talked about that he's actually worked on, that we both have spoken about on the show, but also outside the show, and I'll just list you off a few of the big ones. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yep.
Famicom Wars, which was the inspiration for my first Game Boy Advance game, Advance Wars. That was on the Famicom.
Okay, yeah, yep.
Super Metroid, Radar Mission. He also did Mario Kart Super Circuit. He did Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Prime Echoes, Metroid Prime Pinball, and then he went Metroid Prime Hunters, Excite Truck, Metroid Prime 3, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. He did the arrangements for the Metroid parts. Donkey Kong Returns, Pilot Rings Resort. What else did he do? I'll scroll a bit down. He did Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which we've spoken about. Donkey Kong, he did Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS and Wii U, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which I'm actually playing at the moment, and I can tell that he has done it because the music is very similar. He worked as a supervisor on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and was a process management of sound for Hey Pikmin, and he's also doing Metroid Samus Returns. He was a musical director. So,
wow.
The latest
There you go.
works is Sushi Striker, which is a action puzzle game on the Nintendo Switch and 3DS. So
there you go.
He's still around, and I don't know, maybe we can talk more about SNES music in another episode, but that's pretty interesting to see that he's actually worked on Breath of the Wild, because I know that's been getting a lot of accolades for its sound and its soundtrack.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell that his music has continued on, because it's that eerie feeling in Prime as well, in Metro Prime, and he's done all the others as well. I don't think he was on that other M, I don't believe you said.
No, there was nothing involved. I think that was a reboot that was outside the core guys.
Yeah, it
Um,
was a totally different kind of game.
Funnily enough, that's the first one I played. So yeah,
Well, there you go.
um,
Um,
yeah,
I'll I'll continue on a bit about Super Metroid.
yeah. Sorry,
There's
I
That's all
got
right.
on a rant there. Yeah, go on.
Mate, I enjoyed listening to what else music he's done. It was good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, there are also like many other areas to Planet Zebes. You got, as I just mentioned earlier, you got the space colony, which is at the start. You got Criteria. You got Brinstar, which is the majority of the game. You got Norfair. You got Wreck Ship, which is, I believe, the first game. They like Metroid on the NES. You kind of play that area, and you're kind of going back to it. Uh, you got Meridia and Turian. And as I mentioned earlier, Mother Brain is your main boss, but I won't go into any more details or spoilers because it is a surprise ending, and I highly suggest you all play the game.
Check it out. And out of 10, what would you give it?
Oh, mate, I'm going to give it a 10. It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah, I've just clicked away from the composer, and I've actually read, as of 2003, which is when they stopped taking these records, the game had sold 1.42 million copies.
Well, there you go.
It's not in production anymore, but yeah, that's quite a lot for a
Like
Super Nintendo game.
even Super Nintendo, then you're buying it on the Wii shop, your Wii U shop. I'm sure there's plenty more sales out there on the other eShops going around. You got to play it on the Super Nintendo Classic that came out a couple of years ago. There'll be many more times where you can purchase it and play it for yourself as well if you don't have the original cartridge.
Yeah, that's right, and like that game carries a lot of weight, and I think people will be interested in going back and playing that. So definitely a cool game, a cool sort of storyline, character design. Definitely something a lot of people have interest in playing, but
Yep.
also just the character and the franchise itself.
Yep.
Because we've got to remember, like Ridley was, I think, a fan chosen addition to Super Smash Bros. In terms of character releases.
Yep.
So
It shows the appeal and effect that a game of its time has had with people of today as well.
yeah, that's it. And well, that's cool that you've played through it a few times. How many hours would you say it is to complete it?
You can probably do it real quickly if you know, like, I believe I've seen speed runs get done real fast because the thing with this game, you don't have to play it
Okay.
the way it's supposed to be played. You can learn wall jumping after a certain bit, and you can like jump and skip certain areas. So people have with their speed runs, they know how to skip, miss this part, beat this boss first, do it this way just to get a bit of time off their speed run. So it won't take too long if you know what you're doing, but if you're exploring, you're trying to find all the reserve tanks, all the extra missiles, all the super missiles to have in your arsenal when you go against the big guys, which I believe you should because you kind of need it. It took me just about over a week, but I wasn't playing consistently. But in the game, there's save points as well. So most games during that time, as we both know, you didn't have save areas, but this game does. So if your game it should have a backup battery inside, and hopefully it still works. If not, they can be replaced as well.
Well, I'm just looking at a website called howlongtobeat.com, and they've got it around sort of 8.5 hours to beat. With speedrunners doing it in about hour and a half.
Exactly, because they're missing bits. They're doing this wall jump.
The fastest run is clocked at 42 minutes.
So that's crazy.
That's ridiculous, yeah. And also, ridiculous. just noting on the cover of the game also Ridley's red, whereas I think in Smash Bros she's like a purpley grey colour.
Yeah, I think so too. In Smash, yeah, definitely purple, and from the cover, yeah, red.
Yeah, which is pretty
There you
cool.
go.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. It sounds like one I'll have to definitely complete. I might get stuck into it soon. But yeah, it's cool to see, read a bit about the composer as well and see that he's still sort of active because I know we were talking before we went on the show, just saying like another game, how it's cool to see what games they've worked on and then listen to them and you can actually hear sort of elements of the type of music in other games.
Yep.
But Tropical Freeze, that's it's very close to the old Donkey Kong games, but he's worked on it, so he's able to capture that, but still, I guess he probably worked with other people.
I think he worked with other people during it.
He probably was like like a supervisor or something. So
yeah,
but that's really cool game, and thanks for discussing it. So you give it a 10 out of 10. That's pretty good.
Yeah, one of my favorite games. It's something that I could go back to even this year or next year and give it another go because you're always learning something new.
Yeah.
Because you might shoot like the roof and you might find this secret path. You might come across another reserve tank and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know this was here.
It says here released on 3DS, PC, Super Nintendo, Wii, and Wii U.
Well, there you go.
There's its platforms. Well, that I guess does it for this episode. Then it was we just wanted to try something new today and do a game each and see, because we've sort of done a few podcasts where we talk sort of news and what we've collected, but we don't really talk about games in any detail. So
yep.
Again, no questions to answer. But, as the show goes on, the more episodes we do, the more popular it's hopefully going to get, and we can start to sort of take the aspects people like and make full episodes out of them. So that's the aim. And yeah, so all right, well, thanks for stopping by, and feel free to like the page on Facebook, which is what again, James?
It is facebook.com/poweronretrogaming. You can also find us on Instagram, Power on Retro Gaming, Twitter @PowerOnRetroGaming, and there's also a website where you can also find a bit of information. You can find links to the podcast as well. But that's powerongaming.org, and you can find this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher Smart Radio as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
And remember, power on.